Welcome to Analytics Nexus. Thanks for joining us for Melinda Geist's presentation, How to Define, Implement, and Enforce an Enterprise-Wide Taxonomy. Melinda Geist is an award-winning experience design strategist at Intel with a passion for the art and science of digital marketing. A creative soul with a pragmatic mind, her commitment to creating lasting and adaptable solutions has been the driving force behind her approach to work. A creative problem solver, Geist tackles challenges with enthusiasm and bold optimism. She states that the best advice she ever received was, "Don't come to me with a problem unless you have a proposed solution." Geist credits this technique with shaping her approach to problem solving and driving her success in taxonomy and metadata solutions. Geist is a world traveler with a passion for international culture and cuisine. She earned her master's in applied information management at the University of Oregon and her bachelor's in advertising design at Pacific Northwest College of Art. She's a certified project management professional and studied computer graphics at the Royal College of Art in London.
Hi, this is Melinda Geist. Thank you for being here for my presentation, How to Define, Implement, and Enforce an Enterprise-Wide Taxonomy. Now, a little more about me. I'm a 23-year veteran at Intel, and I'm part of Intel's sales and marketing organization. Our group is responsible for Intel's digital customer experience to the outside world, and also the systems that are used across our marketing channels. Now, it's been a long journey to get where I am today in my current role as an enterprise taxonomy strategist. During my presentation, I'll share my story about how we created an enterprise taxonomy for Intel for our digital marketing channels and also for our sales and marketing content. My plan is to provide insights into what we've learned along the way. I'll be available to answer questions later on Slack. Now, what does it mean to be an enterprise taxonomy strategist at Intel? My role has largely evolved into one of taxonomy evangelist, covering three key areas. Now, as part of my role at Intel, I take every chance I can to help people learn what a taxonomy is and why it should matter to them. I can't emphasize enough the importance of educating management, stakeholders, and also the internal users of the taxonomy. Now, I found that the greatest success in education is providing specific day in the life stories. This way, people in different roles at Intel, whether they're responsible for activating paid media or publishing content on Intel.com, understand how taxonomies are used and what the benefits are within the context of their work. In addition to educating management on the benefits of taxonomies, I've needed to provide a realistic picture of what it takes to create taxonomies and then evolve them over time. With taxonomies, it's not a one and done, and long-term funding of resources is critical to success. But before we jump into our story, let's step back and take a look at what we mean by taxonomy, and specifically enterprise taxonomy. Simply stated, a taxonomy is a vocabulary or a set of words that have been chosen to describe a domain. Now, in this example, automotive, information technology, and virtual reality terms, and their children terms, describe the technology domain. How are taxonomies used? Taxonomies can be used in tools such as pick lists to enforce controlled values in form fields. Another example is that they can be implemented as information architecture elements to drive consistency in the visitor experience. So think of a menu of options for a user. Taxonomies are foundational to content findability in search and also for contextual or personalized experiences. For analytics, taxonomies help categorize data so that it can be used for analysis and measurement of, say, campaign performance. But what do we mean by an enterprise level taxonomy? An enterprise taxonomy is language that spans business groups and activities, such as different types of marketing activations. Enterprise taxonomies are applied across a range of assets or content types. An enterprise taxonomy is implemented as the common language across multiple systems within an organization. Now, for Intel, taking a strategic look and approach to taxonomy was critical to our business in a number of areas. And here's how we got started. First, we built a business case for an enterprise taxonomy project. As part of this process, we looked at the problems we needed to solve related to data quality and also content findability. We looked at what that desired future state might look like. And then we also discussed how we might get there. So for example, what would the scope likely need to be and how long would this take? Now, the business case for this work was critical in our ability to obtain support for it from our executives. It also provided that beacon that we needed to direct the work and ensure that it delivered ultimately what the business needed. For Intel, the impact of the lack of strategic approach to management of our information assets and data was quite significant. And to give you a sense of the scale, Intel spends in the area of about $2 billion per year on marketing and another $75 million per year creating web content. We determined through the business case that our top three focus areas should be data quality, getting better information about how our campaigns were performing, and improving the findability of our content and our customers' digital experience on Intel.com. First off, between Intel managed systems and the agency systems that activate our marketing tactics, we have great technology and really a best-in-class set of platforms. The problem was that our technology stack had grown up organically with all different taxonomies in use. In other words, everyone was using a different language for the same things. And as a result of this, poor data quality impacted our ability to get real-time insights that we really had to have in order to optimize our campaigns. The second focus area surfaced when Intel's CMO at the time wanted the ability to optimize marketing spending while campaigns were actually running. A single campaign is often activated across different channels. So for example, paid media, social media, Intel.com, and then also email campaigns using our relationship marketing platform. Larger campaigns activated across these channels involve a number of Intel teams and external agency partners all working together. The lead time to gather this data, often as long as 6 weeks, left little or no time to optimize a campaign before it was over and it was too late. Third, without a taxonomy consistently applied across content, our customer satisfaction was compromised. content findability on Intel.com has suffered, and effective data-driven experiences around personalization are really difficult to deliver. The business case also helped us confirm the benefits that would come out of this work. Intel's business case showed that this taxonomy would enable that common language needed across our activities and systems to improve data quality and streamline our campaign activations. We would be able to more quickly understand cross-channel campaign performance and tweak those dials to optimize return on investment. And in the future, we could ultimately justify marketing spending by tying it to actual sales. And last, we believe that this effort would play a large part in increasing Intel.com customer satisfaction scores through more meaningful targeted experiences and better content findability. Internally, the taxonomy would make it easier to identify existing content to get us out of this habit of creating duplicate information. Now, this too would help with content findability by reducing the bloat of content on our site. And of course, it also would save us money because we weren't recreating duplicate content over and over. Once we created the business case, our executive sponsor was on board and our project was funded, we began the process of defining this taxonomy. Creating an enterprise-level taxonomy at Intel scale, or any company as large as Intel, is a daunting endeavor. Initially, I pulled together a tiger team to help us shake the bushes and uncover how big this thing really was. Believe it or not, we didn't fully understand the extent of our ecosystem. We identified 26 systems and 18 individual sets of taxonomies that touched our world. Once we learned more about what we were up against, we hired an expert who could help us see the path to a solution. Our hunch was that fixing this problem would be a significant effort, and that if we didn't do it right the first time, we may not get the chance for a do-over in the foreseeable future. We just did not have the expertise internally to tackle something like this. The opportunity cost here was pretty high. So we brought in Factor Firm, an information architecture and user experience agency based in Seattle, Washington. And then we began our journey by holding a 2-day workshop. What you're seeing here is that before this workshop, we filled out a form with information about each existing taxonomy. And that's what you're seeing here, pasted up on this whiteboard. Then during the workshop, we took the definitions we created and then we mapped the system dependencies together. Now, this activity really shined the light on where we were with our current state. Also, filling out these forms for each taxonomy in our environment provided that guidance necessary to understand what our taxonomy requirements really were. And then completing the mapping also really helped us hone in on what our true scope really was. Coming out of this workshop, we had confidence that we were starting down the right path and that we really understood the breadth of the problem. After the workshop, we digitized our map to show our current state. Now, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it really was true here. I use this diagram many times to illustrate our problems to both our business and IT stakeholders, and also to Intel management. Honestly, people were shocked to understand what our problem was. It turned out to be one of my most important tools in regards to influence and gaining buy-in, which I'll discuss here shortly. After we had a better handle on the scope, we continued with the assessment process. That's what you see here on the left side of the diagram. The assessments looked at a breadth of touch points and requirements within each of them. So for example, technology, taxonomy, analytics, workflow. For user research, we had some existing user research which provided needed insight into our customer personas. But then we also conducted some other internal research to identify nuances around taxonomy usage and also potential training needs around our taxonomy users. Once the assessments and requirements were completed, we designed our taxonomy model. And I'll show you the design approach a little bit later in this presentation. During this design phase, we also identified the governance requirements. And you'll notice here that the governance requirements are not in the last phase, but here while we're creating the taxonomy model. These governance requirements were very important to help guide the implementation decisions that were part of that implementation plan. Now, one area that helped us be successful was that the technology that we needed, largely we already had that technology in place. And our goal from the beginning was to work with the capabilities we already had. And fortunately, it worked out that we had most of the technology that met our need. We didn't have a large budget to invest in new technologies and tools. And by having this technology in place already and being able to take advantage of it, it shaved off considerable time and funding needed to successfully deliver this project overall. Also, it meant that we already had much of the needed technical expertise in-house within our IT team. So we built the taxonomy model in our existing ontology management system or taxonomy management system. And we also took a pragmatic approach to system integrations. So for example, some systems used already existing APIs that were between the taxonomy management system and the system needing the taxonomy. For other systems, though, we implemented consumption reports that were deposited on network attached storage and then picked up by that consuming system. Our simplest integration, and we did end up with a few of these, was to manually update a taxonomy in the system that was using it. And this was effective, for example, for systems or taxonomies that didn't need to be updated very frequently. Now, this is where the rubber hit the road. The roadmap laid out the path to get to the desired state and helped us tie smaller, actionable projects together. Putting together an enterprise taxonomy is a slog. And this roadmap showed the team, well, and our stakeholders, what it looks like, what the pieces are, and help set expectations that this wasn't going to be a quick fix. At Intel, quick wins are very important, especially for long-term initiatives. Quick wins are particularly important in order to show progress and to get continued resources and funding. We were careful to carve out quick wins that provided immediate value and built the organization's confidence ultimately in our ability to deliver this long-term effort. Remember the drunken bowl of spaghetti? Well, here's what it looks like now. On the left are the systems at play in our digital marketing and sales ecosystem. And here on the right is the enterprise taxonomy design. So you can see that rather than 18 separate sets of taxonomies, we now have one set of enterprise level domain taxonomies, such as audience, subject, and geography, to name a few. And these domain taxonomies serve up derivatives to each system depending on the need of the channel. So here you see the main domain taxonomy, and then subdomain 1 is one derivative, subdomain 2 is another derivative, etc., that then moves into the systems at play. This is a flexible model in that it allows each system or channel to have unique taxonomies depending on the individual needs of that system. For example, for the paid media channel, they required an ad size taxonomy that isn't used anywhere else. For an effort of this scale and timeline, aligning the organization was critical to success. You can build trust by showing you have a clear understanding of the challenge and how you're going to solve it and support those business goals. It takes resources, and we needed to have an executive sponsor willing to fund the resources needed to fully develop the strategy and then support us through design and implementation. Then once the taxonomy was delivered, it needed to be managed and sustained. Taxonomy is not a one and done. Also, the executive sponsor provided crucial support by advocating this effort with her peers and also delivering tops-down mandates within her own organization. We were able to bring our cross-organizational stakeholders along by showing them how we would make their work easier and save them time and money. Each team managing these systems previously had to reinvent the wheel for each of their individual taxonomies, and I'll tell you, they were more than happy to let that go. The strategy and roadmap was extremely helpful in gaining their confidence that we knew what to do and we could solve the big problems. Let's dive into governance. Our enterprise taxonomy is managed by a small team of data and taxonomy experts through a governance workflow that includes request intake, cross-domain and system impact analysis, taxonomy design and modeling, and then deployment to marketing and content systems. So step 1, taxonomy users submit a request for terms into our request workflow system. And then once a request is received, that taxonomy team analyzes the impacts of the change and makes a decision to approve or reject it. Or sometimes we'll suggest an alternative solution to resolve their requirement. Oftentimes, we'll receive a request, for example, and we'll suggest that they use an existing taxonomy as it will solve what they're trying to do. If a new term is approved, that change is then modeled in the taxonomy management system. And then our IT teams deploy the change across the systems that need to use that domain or term. Ongoing maintenance of the taxonomy is something else that's really important and shouldn't be forgotten. For example, we'll look at search logs to find terms that our site visitors are using and should be added to the taxonomy so it can be applied to content. We'll also look for terms that are underutilized and can be pruned from the taxonomy so that it doesn't get too big. Now, as a reminder, people have a tendency to think of governance as a process to bolt on at the end. This is certainly something that's been true at Intel. But in reality, with enterprise taxonomy, considering governance requirements early identifies key design and development requirements for implementation. As an example is a requirement for how frequently a taxonomy must be updated in a given system, or how frequently a system can accept taxonomy changes. The requirements around frequency of updates can influence workflow decisions within your governance process, and also potentially the technical integration method that's needed. Where are we today and what have we learned? We've had great success with this effort. Adoption has been better than expected, certainly went beyond my expectations. And even at one point, we joked that the taxonomy had gone viral within Intel. We still have a ways to go, but our success is evident in that we have this common language across systems, which makes us more efficient with our time and energy from both the business and the IT perspectives. And just one example of that is that Intel buys other companies every year. And if you keep up to date with the technology industry news, you probably read about the acquisitions that Intel makes. And as you can probably imagine, absorbing formerly third-party content into our digital ecosystem is difficult, but with this new taxonomy in place, it's quite a bit easier. Also, and this gets me really excited, the taxonomy is now a part of our organization's culture, and it's become a foundational element in all new digital experience projects. You know, previously, I would be the one asking when I saw a project plan, where is the taxonomy work identified and who's going to do that work and where is it within your schedule? Now, whenever I see a project plan or a roadmap, the taxonomy work is front and center. This is a big change for our organization. Also, our enterprise data lake is now a core business asset. Before we had this taxonomy in place, our data lake was largely unusable. We have analytics, dashboards set up worldwide to measure campaign performance. And our campaign managers are now able to optimize their campaigns to achieve better return on investment. And how does Claravine fit in? Well, from a strategy perspective, we are currently using Claravine to improve data quality in two areas. First, Claravine is helping Intel teams define complete and accurate metadata for content published on intel.com. And then our second use case is for paid media. Here we're using Claravine to generate codes that are applied to campaigns in the paid media systems. I want to leave you with a few lessons learned. First, don't assume your stakeholders understand what a taxonomy is and how it will benefit them. You must continually educate people about the value the work you are doing provides. Don't assume your stakeholders understand what a taxonomy is and how it will benefit them. You must continually educate them about the value the work you are doing provides. During my first presentation about this work to a large group at Intel, someone actually asked me, what is a taxonomy? Well, I was very surprised by this question because this was a large group of digital marketers. Taxonomy can be difficult to describe, and I wasn't prepared to answer the question on the spot, nor did I have good examples to illustrate the concepts. So just always be prepared for basic questions. Also, every rock you turn over will uncover new problems, or better yet, opportunities. It's important to remember this as you're planning work and setting expectations with management. I guess my message here is don't overpromise because you're going to learn something that might change your plan. Also, again, people have a tendency to think of taxonomy governance or any governance process as something that you can bolt on at the end. With enterprise taxonomy, considering governance requirements early identifies key design and development requirements that will impact your implementation plan. And last, when providing updates to executives, always tie the information back to the business goals. This is key to getting support for ongoing investments required to keep your new taxonomy healthy and providing strong business value. Thank you for joining me to hear this presentation. If you have any questions about what we've done at Intel or you'd like some advice, please reach out to me on Slack.
Thanks so much for watching this presentation. Join us on the Analytics Nexus Slack to talk with our presenters about this topic and more.